Hello and welcome to episode 27 of the Mr. Douglas Sports Show. I am your host as always, Corey Douglas. And the NFL is headed to week 13 finally after the longest week 12 in NFL history. As you know, the NFL got kicked off last Thursday on Thanksgiving with the Houston Texans going to Detroit to take on the Lions, followed by the Washington football team against the Cowboys, and what was supposed to be the third game of the triple-header, the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers. That game was moved from Thursday to Sunday to Monday to Tuesday. They finally played on Wednesday due to the Baltimore Ravens having a huge COVID outbreak. I mean, there was a number of guys that had to miss the game against Pittsburgh due to being on the COVID reserve list. Baltimore Ravens lose to Pittsburgh in a tight, hard-fought game. But that's not the story for me coming out of that game or coming out of this week in the NFL. The story for me is the amount of people that are complaining about the NFL, saying that the NFL needs to shut down the season. They can't go on any further. And it's like almost like I remember hearing something like that to begin the season before the season even started. You know, everybody was saying there's no way the NFL is going to be able to pull this off. There's no way the NFL can have these guys on the field tackling each other and being as physical as the NFL requires you to be. But yet, here we are in week 13. The NFL has not canceled any games. Now, you can make an argument that the NFL probably should have canceled this Baltimore Ravens game, or maybe canceled the Broncos game where the Broncos had no quarterbacks that could play, so they had to turn to a receiver off the practice squad who half the building didn't even know before the game. He goes out there, completes one pass out of 9 attempts, 2 picks, and the Denver Broncos are forced to play without a quarterback and lose. If that doesn't tell you that the NFL is going to power through all scenarios, just think back to every other scenario that the NFL is, caught in the middle of, whether it's the domestic violence, substance abuse. The list goes on as far as what the NFL is going to play through. And this pandemic, fortunately or unfortunately, just depending on what side you are on, the NFL is going to play. And so I think that everybody that's, crying and, oh, the NFL needs to stop, I think it's just wasted energy. We have less than 10 NFL Sundays remaining when you include the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So my advice is just to go ahead and out here and enjoy the football that's going to be taking place on a weekly basis. And occasionally you'll get your 2 Monday night games. Occasionally you'll get a Tuesday game. And then in this case, this week, you got a Wednesday game. So my advice is just to take everything in stride. The NFL is going to power through this whether you like it or not. So that's all I have to say about that. But now I want to go ahead and dive into the Cowboys-Washington game from Thanksgiving. And this game is just the epitome of Dallas Cowboys football over the last 25 years. So the Cowboys were coming off a huge road win in Minnesota against a team that had won 4 in a row. The Vikings were looking like they were headed back to, getting back into the playoff hunt. And they got there, the Cowboys beat them. And then the Cowboys turn around and just get whooped by the Washington football team once again, 41-16. After getting beat by them 25-3 earlier in the season. And for everybody that's on Team Tank, I think you're very happy. So I know I came on here last week, I said the Cowboys have a real shot to win this division. I actually still think they do. But if you're on Team Tank, you loved that game. And I think you loved what you saw from the coaching staff because they appeared to be on Team Tank themselves. So let's just start with the decision making on 4th down. So the first 4th down, 4th and 1, they drop back. Instead of handing the ball off or doing a QB sneak with Andy Dalton, they throw to CD Lamb. It's incomplete. You can make an argument whether it's pass interference or not. In that situation, it's not going to be called. So my question is, why are you throwing the ball on 4th and 1? And I realized that Zach Martin had went out earlier in the game. Now he's going to miss multiple weeks, maybe the rest of the season himself. The left tackle Knight went out as well. But what you did later on a fourth down situation by doing a QB sneak is what you should be doing there. So I didn't understand that play call. That was just a terrible play call. But the third and final fourth down call takes the cake. This play, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a play that made me miss Jason Garrett. Because I don't even think Jason Garrett can mess up a fourth down call that poorly, that badly. So it's 4th and 10. You're at basically your own 20. And you do a fake punt. And I know Cowboys fans and everybody around the team wanted the Cowboys to be more aggressive. And Mike McCarthy is doing that. But like I said earlier in the season, there's no plan. He's just going for it to go for it. He's throwing balls to the wall. It's just throwing things against the wall each week and seeing what sticks. And if it doesn't, he's like, oh, well, I like the decision. We do this. But the fourth down call, you're down 4. And the fake punt is a end around reverse pass. I don't know what the play was supposed to be, because if you look at the replay, CJ Goodwin was running open, but it didn't look like he was all the way prepared for a pass to be thrown his way. So I don't think that was the play call in that situation. But the fake punt call is ridiculous in that situation. I can't for the life of me understand that call. And it opened up the floodgates, because you turned a 20-16 game into immediately the next play you turn into a 27-16 game after Antonio Gibson runs for his second touchdown of the game. Then you get a 3 and out, you have a pick 6, and all of a sudden you lose 41-16 in a game that you were very much into the fourth quarter. But poor coaching wasn't the only thing that was on display in this game. So, like I said, I hated the fourth down calls. The 4th and 1 pass to CeeDee Lamb, hated that call. I hated the end around reverse pass, whatever that mess was, late in the fourth quarter when you're only down 4. But there was also some big plays that happened that weren't coaching related. You start with the Jalen Smith play. He catches the interception. And it looks like he's going in for a pick 6. But no, Terry McLaurin chases him down, trips him up. It sets up the Cowboys in a goal-to-goal situation. And on one of the plays, again, CeeDee Lamb is targeted in the end zone. It's a catch that he should make for an all-pro receiver that I think he'll be in his career. He drops it. That goes from a potential touchdown to tie the game to the Cowboys having to settle for a field goal to make it 20-16. And like I said, you had the fake punt later in the game, which just completely iced it from that point. But then you have the Ezekiel Elliott early in the second half. Another fumble. He puts the ball on the ground. It was a bang-bang play. But once again, Zeke, what are we doing? Like, this fumbling problem, it's old, so I'm not going to hash on it too much. But if you look at the series of events in this game, it just goes to show this team is just not ready this year. But then, as soon as you say that, the Cowboys will go out and beat Baltimore. And, they'll be right back in the thick of things. You have the Giants with Daniel Jones suffering a hamstring injury this past Sunday. So who knows what his status is. And they play Seattle, which is probably going to be a loss. And then Washington, they beat the Cowboys soundly twice, but they're still the Washington football team, so the division's still not out of question. So it was an ugly loss on Thanksgiving, and it was a disappointing loss if you still had hope for the division. For me, I think it's a win-win situation. If you win the division, fine. Young players are going to help you get there. But if you don't win the division, secure this draft pick. And right now the Cowboys are sitting at 4th in the NFL draft right now. Only teams ahead of them are the Jets, Jags, and Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know if they'll pass any of those 3 teams, but you lose and you never know what happens. That game against Cincinnati here next Sunday is going to be huge as far as team tank purposes. So we'll see what happens there. But before the Cowboys get to that game, they have a Tuesday night game against the Baltimore Ravens. And this is a game where there's a lot up in the air, because Who knows on the Baltimore side what's going to happen with their COVID situation. You don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to play. The running backs, Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins, they should be back after they were eligible to actually play on Wednesday. But the Ravens decided to hold them out for one more game. So I expect them to be ready. But who knows about just, like I said, Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, some of the defensive players they had on the COVID list this past week. But regardless of who plays for the Baltimore Ravens, their number one objective in the game on offense is to run the football. So if Lamar Jackson plays, you want to make Lamar Jackson throw the football. You want to make him a pocket passer because at this point in his career, he has not shown the ability to beat defenses consistently, especially against good opponents, which the Cowboys definitely are not. But I think the Cowboys do have some of the qualities that it takes to make Lamar Jackson kind of one-dimensional as far as not being able to use his legs. So that is obviously the biggest key to the game for the Baltimore Ravens. Like I said, I don't really know who's going to play at this point. But regardless, it comes down to the run game on offense. And the Baltimore defense is still very, very, very good. So obviously the Cowboys have to be able to take care of the ball on offense and make sure they don't give the Ravens offense short fields with whoever starts at quarterback and whatever weapons they do or do not have on offense. So that's all I have for the Baltimore Ravens Cowboys preview. Again, that game is on Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Central Time. So that's obviously a big game for the Cowboys, for the Ravens. The Ravens are trying to get back on track. And with the schedule, the way it lays out, they're 6-5, but they could very realistically win out. So obviously it's a big game for them. So I do want to go ahead and transition to my NFL power rankings for this week. And we do have some changes. There's no change to the top. Kansas City is the best team in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. The Chiefs have the best offense in the NFL. Tyreek Hill is one of the best receivers in the NFL. Travis Kelce, the list goes on for the Chiefs. They go into Tampa Bay this past week, get a big road win against Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. Number 2, we have a new number 2 team this week, and that is the New Orleans Saints. I'm not giving them much credit for beating a team without a quarterback with the Broncos. I think them moving up to number 2 and sliding Pittsburgh down to number 3 has more to do with what I'm just not seeing from the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point. They barely beat the Cowboys with Garrett Gilbert at quarterback. They barely beat the Baltimore Ravens with RG3 and the guy from Penn State playing quarterback. So I'm just not really seeing a whole lot there for Pittsburgh. And then they lose Bud Dupree, who tore his ACL, who just him and TJ Watt coming off the corner or coming off the edge on that defense was creating all types of havoc for NFL offenses. So that's a big loss for Pittsburgh. So they slide down to number 3 this week. Number 4 this week is the Seattle Seahawks. And what they are doing right now on defense is the story. So, as you know, to begin the season, the narrative was the Seahawks are going to let Russ cook. And for the first half of the season, that was looking like Russell Wilson headed to MVP territory and winning his first ever MVP in his career. But there's a couple of hiccups against Buffalo and the Los Angeles Rams, where Russell Wilson turned the ball over 10 times in a 3-week period when you factor in losses to the Arizona Cardinals. But what I've seen from them the last couple of weeks against the Arizona Cardinals on Thursday Night Football and then on Monday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles, they are getting back to running the football. Chris Carson is healthy, although he got out-snapped 41-25 by Carlos Hyde for some reason. I don't expect that trend to continue, but I do expect them to continue to run the football. DK Metcalf is one of the best receivers in the league in his second year of playing pro football. But the most impressive thing for Seattle right now is what they are doing on defense. You have Jamal Adams with 6.5 sacks. He's trying to set the NFL record for sacks by a secondary player. And then they traded for Carlos Dunlap. So I think they're starting to really find their identity, being able to play solid defense and being able to run the football on offense. So they are my number 4 team. Number 5 is the Green Bay Packers. And Aaron Rodgers just continues to be Aaron Rodgers. They shellacked the Chicago Bears on Sunday Night Football this past week. So they are my number 5 team. Alright, so now that we got the NFL power rankings out the way, let's go ahead and transition into my Week 13 picks. Week 12 was a very good week for me. I go 12-4, which improves my record overall for the season to 116-60. And with no Thursday night game last night, we get things kicked off on Sunday with the Saints and Falcons. And the Falcons just put it on the Raiders. I don't think that will be the same story this week. Give me the Saints over the Falcons. Give me the Bears over the Lions. Give me the Titans over the Browns. The Browns have to prove they can beat a good team before I pick them to beat a good team. Give me the Dolphins to beat the Bengals. Give me the Vikings to beat the Jags. Give me the Raiders to beat the Jets. And the Raiders better watch out because this game could be a tricky game coming off just a beatdown against Atlanta. You know, it could be in their heads, but I'm going to pick the Raiders just because the Jets are so bad. Give me the Texans to beat the Colts. Give me the Cardinals to beat the Rams. Give me the Seahawks to beat the Giants. Give me the Packers to beat the Eagles. Give me the Chargers to beat the Patriots. Give me the Chiefs to beat the Broncos. Give me the Steelers to beat the Washington football team. That game is on Monday, so we have a Monday doubleheader. The second game on Monday is the 49ers and Bills. Give me the 49ers to beat the Bills in this one. And then the Tuesday night special, give me the Baltimore Ravens to beat the Dallas Cowboys. Alright, so that concludes my Week 13 NFL picks. But before I get out of here, I have a couple NBA topics I need to touch on just real quick. Obviously, the Christmas Day schedule was released for the NBA this week, and one of the primetime game features Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks heading to LA to take on the defending champs, LeBron James and Anthony Davis in LA, 7 p.m. Central Time start. And this is huge for the Mavs organization, and it shows the direction that the NBA feels that Luka is going. It shows that the NBA believes that Luka is headed towards being the face of the league. This season is huge for the Mavs to go into next free agency with an opportunity to really improve and maybe lure a big-time free agent to Dallas to pair with Luka and KP. So I love seeing that matchup on Christmas, and hopefully this Christmas matchup goes a lot better than the matchup on Christmas the last time they played a LeBron James-led team, which was after the Mavs won the championship in 2011. They started off in a lockout shortened year at home in Dallas and getting just, I think they lost by about 30 against the Heat, and it was ugly. So hopefully the Mavs can have a better showing. And one of the storylines I think that's going to be heading into this game is obviously the Mavs will be without KP. He won't play until at least some point in January. But the storyline on the other side is, are LeBron and AD going to play? The season ended October 11th when they won the championship. So that's just over 2 months of rest for those guys. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see LeBron and or AD sit out for that Christmas Day game. So it could be lacking some of the star power that the NBA is probably wanting to have in that primetime game for Christmas. But regardless of the fact, I love seeing the Mavs there. That's huge, and it's a big time. It's big time respect to Luka. And then for the rest of the Christmas Day slate, you start off with the Pelicans versus the Heat. I like seeing the Heat in that matchup, but the NBA is just going to force Zion Williamson just on us. They're going to force him into just all these types of primetime situations. I'm sick of it already. I know Zion has the potential to be a good player, but can he accomplish something in the NBA before we start giving him all these flowers and putting him on this pedestal? The second game is the Warriors in Bucks. You see Steph Curry back healthy, taking on the reigning two-time MVP, so that's pretty special. Nets and Celtics is the third game. KD, Kyrie going back to Boston. We'll see how that comes together with KD and Kyrie, just two head cases playing together. And to end the night on Christmas night, you have the Los Angeles Clippers heading to Denver to take on the Denver Nuggets. And there is not a team that I am rooting against more than the Los Angeles Clippers right now. And it has a lot to do with, obviously, with Marcus Morris and his clown behavior in that Mavs series last year. But it also has to do a lot with Paul George. And anytime he doesn't play well, there's always an excuse for Paul George. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing the excuses from him. So I wish nothing but failure on the Los Angeles Clippers. And I hope they continue being the loser franchise they are. And I hope they lose. I hope they lose in just embarrassing fashion the entire season, including the playoffs. But the second NBA story that I wanted to get to before I get out of here is the Russell Westbrook-John Wall trade. So this was a trade that was rumored to be happening a couple weeks ago. The Wizards GM says, no, that's not true. It's not happening. We aren't trading John Wall. Well, things changed within those couple of weeks. John Wall is now headed to Houston. Russell Westbrook's now headed to Washington. And I've seen a lot of talk on social media since this trade went down. And there's been a lot of talk as far as, I feel like there's a lot of confusion. Because I feel like the selfishness of Russell Westbrook has overshadowed the player that he still is. So he's easily still a top 30 player in the league. You pair him with Bradley Beal in Washington. That's a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. I don't know what world some of these people are living in with their analysis of this trade, but that is a very good trade for Washington. But obviously Russell Westbrook has to buy in, and he has to be willing to play alongside Bradley Beal and make things work and just kind of tone down the selfishness a little bit. But for Houston, this is a complete give up. And I know Adrian Wojnarowski said that James Harden actually preferred to play with Wall over Russell Westbrook, which is really confusing to me because unless Russell Westbrook and James Harden really had a falling out in that 1 year they played together in Houston, I don't see how James Harden would prefer to play with Wall over Westbrook. So that's going to be really interesting to see that whole dynamic play out and see if Harden actually stays in Houston. I still have my doubts on whether James Harden will be in Houston for the entire upcoming season. But when you ask who the winner of this trade is, it's obviously the Washington Wizards, and expect to see the Washington Wizards in the playoffs this year. But that's all I got for you today on this episode of the Mr. Douglass Sports Show. I will be back next week. Remember, the Cowboys and Ravens play on Tuesday, so I will see y'all on Thursday. I'll catch y'all later. Salute.